back to another week of Behind the Lens. I'm Debbie Elias, film critic, creator, and host of Behind the Lens, where we go behind the lens and below the line with the movers, the shakers, those film and TV makers, those producers, directors, actors, writers, cinematographers, production designers, costume designers, set dressers, set decorators even, visual effects gurus, sound editors, sound mixers, composers, you name it, we talk to them. And boy, oh boy, been doing so much talking. Ever since TCM Film Festival, it's been like a nonstop whirlwind of interviews with people, many of which are just now after embargoes. They're going to be making their way to you. Like everything that I've done on Palm Royale, now that the final episode just aired this past Wednesday, final episode of season 1, praying we get a season 2, because it's a spectacular show. It's so much fun. And it's got Carol Burnett. But I've got a lot of interviews on that you're going to be hearing. But because we got spoilery, I was embargoed from bringing them to you any earlier because Apple didn't want the surprises spoiled, and neither did I. I'm not big on doing spoilery things. Every once in a while, it kind of sneaks in there, but it's very rare with me. I'm very excited about today's show. I've been talking about it. I've been waiting for it, not so patiently. Blood of Zeus is back on Netflix, season 2, and what a season. Wow. Battles galore. Battle royale, if you will, in some instances here. It is fantastic. I think it's better than season 1, so I will forgive our creators, executive producers, and writers, Charley and Vlas Parlapanides, for the delay. I'm not going to forgive them that much, but I will forgive them to a degree, especially since they're going to be joining us at the midpoint of the show. We've only been plotting this since they got the word a couple years ago that there would be a season 2. We have been plotting their return. So I'm very excited to have my Jersey boys, Charley and Vlas, joining us again to talk about Blood of Zeus. But first, a lot of sad news in Hollywood this weekend. First, we got word on Friday, KTLA entertainment journalist Sam Rubin passed away after 33 years with KTLA. Died of, a heart attack out of the blue. It's, sad for the entertainment community. I have known Sam for many, many years. The one thing I will always remember about Sam is him falling asleep during film screenings. And Pam sitting in the booth laughing. Yes, notorious for that. But there were a few times, I know, at the Chinese theater complex that Sam actually was sitting next to me, and I actually had to shake him and elbow him to wake him up because he snored when he fell asleep. So that's a sweet little anecdote about Sam. He will be missed by many people, especially his colleagues at KTLA and, of course, his family. That was a real shocker. Another shocker, although at 98 years young, you should expect it, we got word this weekend Roger Corman, the legendary, iconic Roger Corman, passed away. Heartbreaking. Film would not be what it is today. The film industry would not be what it is today without Roger Corman. Roger Corman was responsible for the careers of so many filmmakers, actors. Jack Nicholson probably being one of the most notable. Roger, the king of the B movies, as many people like to refer to him. I just refer to him as an icon because that's exactly what Roger Corman was. the films he's made, he produced in his career, produced over 493 films. He directed 56. He acted in 46. He was screenwriter for 10. I spoke with Roger several times over the years about various films of his. And most recently, as a Christmas surprise to me and to all of you, December of 2022, Roger was on Behind the Lens with his daughter Catherine, whose short film had just come out. It was on the long list for Academy Award short live-action films. Roger acted in the short film. A truly engaging interview, and so adorable with the father and daughter, and getting feedback on each about how Catherine felt directing this young upstart actor named Roger Corman. And humor was not lost on Roger. What I did as a remembrance to Roger, I went through that live interview that we had back on December 5th, 2022 on air, and I pulled some of the salient conversation and Roger's thoughts on his fatherly pride for not only Catherine but his other daughter, Mary Tessa, who is also an artisan. Also, he had great insight and commentary on the film industry as we know it, the streaming industry today. Some filmmaking observations. Also, some of his own favorites of his own films. So I thought you might like hearing this little remembrance of Roger Corman talking about filmmaking, his daughter Catherine is a filmmaker, and about his own films. So take a listen as we remember Roger Corman. Hello, Roger. Welcome.
Hello. Nice talking to you once more.
Oh, Roger, this is a real treat. And this is so special for me to have a dad and daughter combo here. Roger, how proud are you of Catherine with this little gem of a film that she's put together?
I'm totally proud of what she's doing now, but I'm proud of everything she's done since she was able to walk. I worked when I shot a lot of films in Europe, and I shot several films with Nestor Almendras, who went on to win an Academy Award. And what he did, he used natural lighting. He just turned on the lights that were already there in the room, and if they needed a little boost, he had a couple of small electric lights that he could plug in. So what Catherine, and that gave a very natural quality. So what Catherine was doing, possibly without knowing the reference to Nestor, is that she's following the natural lighting of an Academy Award.
Did you have any input into Catherine's plans for Little Jewel, other than appearing on camera as a wonderful, giving a recitation of a poem?
Well, I think it worked in a slightly different way. As Catherine said, we were watching almost every night, not every night, but almost every night, these classical films, and when they were over, we would discuss what was in the films, and I think she learned a great deal from that.
Roger, I'm curious, what, as a filmmaker, not as a father, but as a filmmaker, what is it about Catherine's film that stands out to you, that is indicative of this being her voice as a filmmaker?
A number of things. First, her use of the camera. The shots are very well composed, and they fit what is going on. So from a technical standpoint, the picking of the shots, the use of them, when to have a set shot, when to have a dolly shot, and so forth. That stands out very well. Plus, for working with the actors. She acted actually in several films for me when she was younger. So I think she learned all of that. And I thought from a technical standpoint and of working with the actors, she was and is brilliant.
Now, I'm curious, for both of you, is there a chance that you might co-direct a project? Especially for you, Roger, at this stage of the game. I mean, you could just sit back on your laurels. You don't have to do anything. But I'm really curious if we could have a dad-daughter co-directing here.
I doubt it. I think if you have a few times people have co-directed, and I'm not certain that works that well. I would prefer to sort of sit back, let Catherine do the directing. I might comment once or twice on what she's doing, but essentially it's her film to direct.
Well, now, will we see you directing any more films, Roger?
It's doubtful that I will direct again. I'm 96 years old now, and directing people think of as a glamorous, creative job, and it is, but it's also very hard work because you work so long. In other words, normally business is functioning on 8 hours a day. You can't do that on films because it takes so long to set things up that you end up almost invariably shooting at least 10 hours a day, and often considerably more than that. So I'll let the other guys direct, and as a producer, because the director starts at 6 in the morning, I'll show up as the producer around 9 and say, "What'd you shoot that shot for?"
Oh, my gosh. You know, I would be remiss, given this opportunity with you, Roger, to not ask you about your thought on the state of film today, especially with so much going to streaming, with theaters trying to make a comeback, a big resurgence. We're seeing one this year. But I'm curious about you for your thoughts on the state of filmmaking today.
Well, for one thing, streaming has taken over as the number one source of income. So you're really making a film for streaming, and a few films do get a theatrical release. For instance, the Marvel films are technically brilliant, and they consistently rack up high grosses, but they don't have that much of a story. The story is almost a fill-in between the special effects. And somebody asked me this before, and I said, I think they should do what Jim Cameron does. Jim started with us, as a matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
Jim puts the story first, and then the special effects serve the story. And I think that's the way it should be.
How exciting, how important is it to you to see, you've got Mary Tessa following in the arts with her painting, you've got Catherine with photography and film. Did you ever think that you would have such talented daughters?
Well, I hoped that they would be talented, and they've turned out, I believe, to be very talented. Mary is a painter, and she's had 2 gallery shows in New York. The first, with every painting sold. The second one, almost every painting sold. And Catherine, moving forward on film, I'm delighted that they're carrying on and hopefully surpassing what I did.
Do you have a favorite of your
I've been asked that before, and I would say actually there would be two favorites. One was The Intruder, which is about the integration of Southern schools that I made in 1960. The other would be Mask of the Red Death, a film I made in England, and was sort of the culmination of my Edgar Allan Poe films.
And that was just some clips from Roger Corman's appearance here on Behind the Lens back on December 5th, 2022. Roger was an icon. He changed the face of indie filmmaking, and he will be forever missed and remembered. So, a great loss for the industry and the moviegoers. So, if you get a chance, check out some Roger Corman films. And you heard him mention his Edgar Allan Poe series. They are phenomenal. Phenomenal. Find all of Roger's Edgar films that were adaptations of Edgar Allan Poe stories and watch them. You will not be disappointed. So, all right, now back to the current state of films and filmmaking. We're going to kick it off with, you guys all know, second unit, Stunts. I love them. Always have. Always will. So imagine my thrill at speaking with Lee Morrison, supervising stunt coordinator for the incredible Masters of the Air, based on the true story of the 100th Bombardier Group, based out of England during World War II. If you haven't seen the series, it is on Apple. Watch it once, twice, 3 times. It is amazing, and you will definitely want to binge it. But a lot of people don't, we're in B-57s up in the air. You don't think that you're going to need stunt coordinators for things like that, but you do. As you're going to hear Lee and I discuss, there's a lot of stunt work that is really involved logistically. Being in the gunnery seats, in the bombardier areas of a cargo plane, of a B-57, as well as other things. In addition to bar fights and, on the ground fun stuff that we think of typical with stunt work. But there is a lot of stunt work and physical machinations involved with a film like Masters of the Air. And Lee is one of the best. I mean, stunt coordinator on Dune Part 2, on Shotgun Wedding, 007, No Time to Die. He did Flyboys, Munich, Indiana Jones 4, Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Avengers Ultron. He was the second unit coordinator and handling stunts. So he knows this is his bread and butter. So I think it was smart with his diversity of background and different areas of expertise to bring him in as the supervising stunt coordinator for Masters of the Air. So, because award season is upon us, Emmy Awards, things like that, stunts. We need stunt awards for everything, for the Emmys, for the Golden Globes, for the Oscars. Stunts. Lee is one of the reasons why. Take a listen to my exclusive interview with Lee Morrison talking about Masters of the Air.
Nice to meet you, Debbie.
Very nice to meet you, Lee. And what an incredible project for you to be the supervising stunt coordinator on.
Amazing honor, Debbie, to be honest. A huge fan of Band of Brothers, a huge fan of the Pacific. Obviously, Stephen, Tom, Gary, all the producers, they're all legends. And to get the opportunity, I first worked with Stephen on Munich when he was directing, Steven Spielberg. And then to come through, I worked for him on Indiana Jones as a young performer and assistant coordinator. So to be supervising stunt coordinator of the Masters of the Air was just a dream come true, really.
This is one of the first things that I took note of and was excited about is because you have stunt experience on a lot of these big budget tent poles, like the James Bond films, like Spielberg's films, even Marvel. You were in there as a second unit stunt coordinator for Ultron, Age of Ultron. So
I've been very lucky.
You aren't going to be jaded by the magnitude or like cringe at the magnitude of a project. And this is a big undertaking. But I know when people watch this, and I've seen the first 4 episodes, I'm totally addicted already.
Great, that's fantastic.
When people watch this, when they think of stunts, stunt coordination, they think of a film like John Wick. They think of a Marvel action film. That's not what we're seeing here, because so much of this is taking place in cockpits, in the B-17, various compartments, the gunneries, the bombardier areas. How do you, as a stunt coordinator, what are the primary focuses of stunt work that you have on a series and project like this?
Great question. It's lovely to hear you say that as well, because of working on all different genres and different studios, anywhere from working for Steven before at Paramount and Universal with Indy, and then, you know, being a performer on Munich for him. But as a young man, as a young stunt performer, progressing through the industry, you know, and a huge movie fan, basically, you watch some of the things, the movies that Steven's produced over the years, including Tom Hanks as well, and Gary, and all the other directors that were working with us on Masters of the Air. You go back and look at Band of Brothers, and then you go back before that and you look at Saving Private Ryan. I come from I've been in the industry 27 years now, and I've been brought up as a young man around these amazing directors and producers, where they want the bullet hits to be exactly as it would be in real life, because we have the responsibility to tell the story as best we can, realistically, to what these young men and women went through in that time during the movie that we're trying to portray. So we look at every sequence. We look what really would happen with the shells coming through the fuselage of the plane. We look what would happen to the actual plane itself. We go back, we do our research. You know, Stephen, Tom, and Gary, and all the producers, all the directors have their input, and then I sit there and take it all on board and try to make it as horrifying as what it really was for these young men and women during this time. And that's what I take my job so personally, to do them justice. Basically, they were such brave souls.
Because I don't think a lot of people realize, when you're sitting in, one of the gunnery seats or something, and you're wedged in there, that does require a lot of physical movement to get you in, to have some mobility, and that does require the expertise of a stunt coordinator. Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, once we get the written word, we get our script, we have our brief from our directors and producers, I go to work, I start working with my team. We'll start rehearsing, and we're making sure that one, we can achieve the action and make it as, visceral and impactful as possible on screen, just to punctuate the story. If I get my job right, and you believe every single bullet hit, every single rocket hitting the plane, every airman bailing from the plane, and you're just completely gripped by the action, and you believe it to be terrifying and traumatic, which it should be, then I've got my job right.
Well, I got to tell you, terrifying and traumatic are a lot of the words that popped into my mind as I was watching, especially as we are in episode 3 and episode 4. And even by that point, this has been so well orchestrated and written and developed from a character standpoint. We all know history. At least we hope people know their history. Yeah. But we are so invested in these characters that when shit really starts hitting the fan in episode 3 and 4, as they've got to make that trek all the way down to Algiers, down to Africa, and the other squadrons are not there, and so they're on their own, and the casualties are just unfathomable. It really is. Yeah. You are on tenterhooks, but cringing with every bullet hit, with every moment inside those planes.
It's great to hear because it's so important. You know, hopefully we should learn from history, and it was absolutely terrifying going out on those missions for these young men, and to be inside that B-17 and really just portray for the directors like Carrie Spookanagri in the first 4, Anna and Ryan in 5 and 6, and in D, and then the amazing Tim Van Patten. They all tell their own version of these stories in the 9 episodes, which I think you're going to love. And again, it is, you know, it almost feels when you get the grounded, brutal, beautiful storytelling of Band of Brothers, and then also the horrifying jungle setting of the Pacific. Almost there's something about Masters of the Air when we're in the air. There's almost something glamorous, or even more glamorous about it until the flak starts, until the fighters start attacking, until they have to bail out of those aircrafts. And then you try and get across, you know, it was sometimes minus 30. It was freezing up there. These were very, very young men, you know, and it was just absolutely terrifying. So it's very, very nice to hear you say that you're gripped by the characters, because that's what we should be doing. We should be telling the story of each individual character during the series.
And I mean, and right down to showing us frostbite, getting frostbite up there, 25,000 feet in the air, and it's minus 20, minus 30 degrees. Just touching the gun, gun cock. And we see that. Visual effects has done an amazing job. But here again, that's in tandem with your work, working with the actors in these very tight claustrophobic spaces. Which, of course...
it's very challenging, Debbie, because just working in the claustrophobic cockpits of the aircraft. You know, we had our 2 full-size scale B-17s that we were taxiing on runways. And then we'd have the crew in, we'd shoot upon them. I luckily got to direct second unit for Stephen, Tom, and all the producers, and for all the other directors. So again, you know, so the detail we approached it with, and making sure we did them justice, because it is cramped conditions. They were, you know, in there, like in the radio compartment, or you're up in the nose, or in the tail section, or you was unlucky enough to be in the ball turret. It was horrible conditions. So to try and get the camera in there and shoot that, I love a challenge. You know, I come through, you know, working, every movie I do has its own particular challenges, but this, no more than this, because working on those small confined areas, you know, it got very hot on stage. We was working on the LED volumes when we had to, and the actors and the stunt performers were fantastic. They never complained once.
Wow. This is so realistic, and everybody's work is so goodly that as I'm watching this, all I kept thinking is, how did we ever win the war? Because the hits that we're taking, that the Allies were taking in the air, you just sit there, and it's amazing when you stop and think, how did we even win the war?
It does, and you know what? You know, I it's so nice to hear that, because we should be watching it. And I watched it with my youngest daughter last Friday. She heard about the filming process, and I'd spent a year of my life working on it, and every day, weekends, and not being available. And then we watched episode 3, and it was with Babyface in the ball turret. And my youngest daughter and my wife were both speechless. They were horrified. Yeah. And that was how they should look, because, and, you know, my daughter's 19, would have been the same age, if not Babyface was even younger. So it just sort of, the gravity sinks in, and then it provokes them conversations. You know, my daughter's gone off and she started researching a little bit more about the 100, and also just a bit more about going to now go back and watch Band of Brothers again, but not being 19. So it's an amazing thing to provoke conversation and really make us feel lucky to live in the free world that we do.
Even though we have all the challenges that you had to work in and navigate with, along with the cinematographers, the directors, and the actors, you do get some lighter, fun moments. We do get to have some bar brawls, but one of the lightest moments thus far, besides the 2 adorable kids who love to hang out with the ground crew, that's just adorable, is the bicycle race inside the Officers Club.
Great.
That was
fun.
hilarious.
See them relaxing.
Now, did you have problems with any of the actors? Were they capable of riding a bike, or did they need some basic bike training?
So the guys are all very physical. Callum and Austin, all of the guys are very physical young men, and they were great. You know, they were riding with real vintage bikes. Our amazing production designer Chris Seegers and Chris Cole, our prop master, they gave us really good bikes. We made sure they were safe, and we just did a small amount of just out of courtesy, really. Let's go and ride the bikes together, guys. I designed that sequence for Carrie. We set the course up. We got an electric camera bike in amongst the mix of it, and we went and shot it. It was fantastic, and the guys it was great, and it come across on screen. You know, it was fun. It was fun to do, especially with some of the scenes that we knew we were going in to shoot, Debbie. So I'm glad you enjoyed it.
How out of order what did you have to shoot, Masters of the Air? Because we know nothing is
challenging times.
Yeah.
With the COVID as well. So we considering we had a huge cast and crew, and because we had different blocks with different directors working, I was at one point I had 4 blocks running. So at one point I had 5 directors working simultaneously, and I was directing second unit, 4 or 5 directors. So it's extremely busy. And it's a complex story, especially when we're airborne, you know, and that's really, Carrie's done a great job of telling that story, and with the help of Stephen Rosenbaum and Gary, I mean, to tell those stories and keep everybody on the same look about where the planes are, where they're being attacked from was a huge challenge. But as far as shooting episodes and sequences out of the sequence, yeah, it was a challenge because of COVID as well. So, you know, it was a big undertaking for sure. Huge production.
This stage of your career, with the variety of genres that you've done and what you've tackled, and this being an absolutely huge, 9-10 episode series, what is it that you look for now? Where in your skill set, everything that you have amassed and learned, what do you now look for in a project to say, yes, I'm in?
Yeah, that's an amazing question, and it's very relevant at my age and my career position I'm in right now. I mean, look at Masters of the Air. Look at the pedigree of the producers and directors and co-producers involved in the project. I mean, it's incredible. Down from the costume designer, Colleen Atwood, Oscar winner. You've got Stephen Rosenbaum, Industrial Light and Magic, 2 times Oscar winner. You've got Steven Spielberg, Tom Hanks, Gary Goldman. You've got David. You've got everybody involved in it. And then for me, I've spent 17 years working for the Bond franchise. I've worked with Stephen on Munich and done Indiana Jones with Stephen. He's given me guidance and an education that has got me to where I am now with lots of other directors and producers. I mean, first and foremost, I want to put something on screen that we can watch in 10 years' time and be proud of it, and be challenged and be able to help these amazing filmmakers tell a story. That's really what I look for now.
It's interesting, and I'm curious, because yes, Bond is fantasy. Ian Fleming, of course, who created Bond, was a real person and involved in the war effort. Indiana Jones, it's fantasy. Here, Marvel is all fantasy. This is based on true lives and true events. Does that up the ante for you in terms of you feel more of an onus to get it right when it is a true story?
A million percent, Debbie. It's the most important thing. It's the most important part of my job, especially when you need to keep it grounded. The action should be grounded and be as accurate as possible. And sometimes it's really, really difficult to not let one's ego get in the way of actually doing the film or the TV series justice, and just saying, look, you know what, sometimes less is more. We need to be absolutely spot on with what we're putting on camera as far as the action to punctuate the story. And that's what I try to deliver in all my work. Even if we were doing a Bond, even if we were doing a Marvel, we need to maintain credibility in the character on screen. And if we do that, that's what I've been taught through working with these greats over the last 27 years. So I just want to continue that and pass that down to my team.
I know that you've got to run. I know that Deanna has you booked with all kinds of interviews today. But I very quickly have to ask, do you have a favorite stunt moment in the entire series of Masters of the Air?
Debbie, how many have you seen so far?
4.
Okay. I'm going to tell you what my favourites are in up to 4, because I don't want to ruin the rest of the episodes for you.
Okay.
There's some critical moments coming up in the next few episodes that I know that the short time I spent with you, you're going to love. They're grounded actions. They're really, really poignant moments in the storytelling of what we're trying to achieve. That all the directors have got their own version and own tone sometimes to how they do that, which I think you'll enjoy. Up to 4 so far. I mean, it's probably Quinn escaping and leaving Babyface in the ball turret, but also a lot of storytelling of Biddick, Biddick being so courageous and staying with his co-pilot. They're standout moments. But there's definitely a lot more coming for you.
I can't wait, especially since I'm dying to see what Anna and Ryan have done directing.
Fantastic! Oh God, they're what a joy to work with. Those two are fantastic. They were. It was lovely to taking it direct with those guys. It was fantastic. They're a great collaboration.
I've been with them since their very, very, very first film on a festival circuit. And to see their growth has been amazing. So I'm really anxious to see that and to see the rest of what you do in this series.
Yeah, well, now you've said that, I'm looking forward to, Russell Hine. I'll say no more. Hopefully you enjoy Russell Hine.
I promise. But, Lee.
Lovely talking to you, Debbie.
This has been fantastic, and I hope we get to chat in the future, Lee.
Anytime. You say the word, anytime.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Debbie. Bye. Bye.
And that was Supervising Stunt Coordinator Lee Morrison talking about Masters of the Air. And again, if you haven't seen it, it is based on a true story of the 100th Bombardier Group out of England during World War II. And I think earlier, my mouth got ahead of my brain, or my brain fell behind, and I mentioned B-57. B-17s are the planes in Masters of the Air. So they're B-17s, and they actually did have 2 B-17s that they worked with during the shoot. So, all right, now we're going to switch gears, and we're going to go to ancient Greece. And I am beyond thrilled. Finally, my Jersey boys are back with me. Charley and Vlas Parlapanides are back to talk about Season 2 of Blood of Zeus. Are you there, boys?
Hey, Debbie, how's everything? How are you doing? Thank you for having us back on the show.
Oh, my God. We've only been plotting this for how long? Since the first time.
I know. It's been 3.5 years.
Well, okay. If it didn't take some people this long to make another, 7 or 8 episodes, then maybe it would have been sooner. However, let me just say, after seeing all 8 episodes, it was well worth the wait.
Oh, thank you. Part of it, Debbie, COVID really kind of threw a monkey wrench in everything and really, slowed us down. It will not take that long for another season. But just everyone was doing animation and none of the studios were available.
Yeah.
The overseas studios.
Yeah, because, you can do animation. You didn't need, people there to film or anything like that when everything was on lockdown. So
exactly, live action was shut down and everyone was doing animation, and we just couldn't find a slot to get because we had written the scripts. We had finished the season 2 scripts by June 1st. That was the deadline of 2021 that Powerhouse gave us. But then we couldn't find anyone to start working for almost 1.5 years.
Wow. Well, who did you end up going with for animation? Which animation houses? Did you go back to the same animators who did season 1? Because I see some differences in season 2.
It was a different overseas animation studio, and we even had a different process. The first season, we had Powerhouse Animation doing the boards, which is like the first rough draft. It's what you see in the end credits.
Mm-hmm.
And that was great because we were working with American artists who had, a sensibility very similar to ours. And then Dongwoo was the studio in South Korea that handled the overseas animation and actually brought those drawings then into life and into color. This time around, we used a studio in South Korea called Edge, and they handled both the boards and the production of the animation.
Well,
but in terms of the animation looking good, it really comes down to the work that Powerhouse did. They're the ones and the reason why the animation looks, really good this season.
Well, the animation is stunning, and as I'm watching it, and I actually had to go back and look at some parts of season 1 to tell me that I wasn't going blind or my eyes weren't playing tricks on me. But the color is more vibrant. The texture, the depth of field is even more improved. And I know that sounds weird to some people, but when you grow up on Bugs Bunny and even earlier iterations of animation, all the Merry Melody stuff, Disney's very early stuff, the depth of field, you really appreciate it over the years as animation has progressed. And I see a distinct difference with season 2. There's more texture, a little more depth of field in the characters, also within the way the color is used with the faces, with facial structure. Especially given all the scarring that we have on people, Hades, it's just ridiculous. Seraphim, but it looks spectacular, but the color really pops this season. And I don't know if that was conscious because of the magnitude of the battles that we see unfold here and the drama that happens. This is a very dramatic season.
Well, with Greeks, everything's got to be tragedy or comedy or very dramatic. And so true to form, we tried to deliver that. And I'm glad you noticed that. It gives us a chance to kind of acknowledge some people that worked really hard on the show to provide that aesthetic, because we have a compositor team led by Joe from Powerhouse, where they add that depth of field, that color, that texture. And then we had an amazing woman, Gosha, from Headquarters, that's the company, that would do almost like, Debbie, like you're a film person and you love old movies, the color timing. She would do that. Now, they do it all digitally now, but Gosha would be in there and she could brighten this or add shadow here, and it was just an amazing process. And to be honest, it's something that wasn't afforded to us the first season. So you're seeing their work, and you just lasered in on it. You have the eyes of a hawk. So it's just great. They did an amazing, amazing job.
It's spectacular.
So after they got back the animation from South Korea, then the comp team and Gosha and everyone at Headquarters would step in to, adjust the colors, tweak things, add different layers. Sometimes they'd add more fog. They'd add a flare of sunlight, do all kinds of things just to kind of give it an extra layer of gloss and finish. That was just really nice.
I mean, as I'm watching it, in several of the episodes, especially with Elektra out in the field, and, we're going from green to wheat-colored golds, and there are sun flares actually happening. You don't see sun flares in animation that often. You think of sun flares with a live-action film. So little touches like that are just stunning. And we get into Hades, and the depth and texture of negative space in an animated series? Seriously?
Yeah.
That blew my mind.
We appreciate you sharing that. And we always approach the project through the lens of cinema, and to try to make it as cinematic as we possibly could. and try to make it as epic as we possibly, can make it. And so as you know, we come from the independent scene and from film and from live action. So that was kind of a mandate from the very beginning, and it was embraced by everyone. And so we really treated this, for lack of a better way of saying it, as a movie. That also, applies to the acting. We covet emotional truth in performances and actors that come from the theater and bring that sense of realism to their work. And we made sure when we cast that was at the forefront. Those were the actors that we coveted, and we're very, 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 very proud of all the performances from all the cast members. But again, that's, by design, where we really try to make the experience a cinematic one, or as much of a cinematic experience as we could.
Well, I think you've truly succeeded with that. The voice work is amazing. The emotion is palpable. I love Claudia Christian. Her work as Hera.
She's amazing.
Her work as Hera is wonderful. Fred's work as Hades. Oh, my God. Spectacular.
Fred is one of the most talented human beings we've ever met. He does so many different voices through the show, and he did a ton of voices on season 1. If you ever look at his IMDb, he has over 1,000 credits. And he's just he's the, they say he's the Marlon Brando of voiceover work, and he's just incredible. He's just amazing, and it's a joy to work with him. And our cast from top to bottom, they're super talented, and we really have to show some love to our amazing casting director and voice director, Meredith Lane, because we always say we got to use the Meredith Lane, pool of players of animated voiceover actors, because almost everyone we cast, she would send us, all the auditions, but she would say beforehand, you should really consider Fred for this, or you should consider Claudia. And literally 95% of the time, the person that she said you should consider was who we ended up casting.
Yeah, I mean, Fred's work is so important in season 2, because season 2 kicks off, it's all about Hades plotting to steal the stone. There's always a stone, be it Marvel, be it in ancient Greece, always a stone, Infinity Stones, or this stone that I can't pronounce. But
the Eleuthinian stone.
Yes. So it's probably related somehow to Marvel, and Thanos somehow lost it and the Greeks have it. But so this is very much a Hades-centric season. So to see him develop not only in animation and story, but through Fred's voice work is just spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. And there is so much palpable emotion there as we learn all about Hades and his love.
Thank you for sharing that. And a big part of that, too, was the humanity that Fred brought to the character. And, again, we, go back to wanting to capture that emotional truth. Fred brought that in the biggest way, and he added a certain depth to the character that we loved. And, we can't say enough good things about his performance. And as Charley mentioned, the entire cast's performance. But he had to work. If he came up short, we would have been in big trouble. But thank God, he hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
And it was a big relief. And to be honest, Debbie, too, we were a little concerned when Charley and I were discussing, what season 2 should be, because, Charley runs the social sites, social media sites. And one of the things that he got again and again from fans was like, don't make Hades the bad guy. Don't make Hades the bad guy. And, obviously, since we're very familiar with Greek mythology, we never really viewed Hades as the bad guy. We never viewed him as a devil. We always viewed him more or less as the mythological figure, which is one that is very different from being evil and very different from being the devil, and one character who was actually quite equitable and was actually, someone that was very different from what he had been depicted in other shows and movies and whatnot. So we really lasered in and took care and made certain that we made him as three-dimensional as we could, because we felt that was very important, not only for the storytelling, but also because fans didn't want to see a mustache-twirling Hades, and neither did we.
No, we did not want Dick Dastardly as Hades. No, I just think it's spectacular. And here again, this is where the animation is so superb. When you see tears because of heartbreak streaming down Hades' face, it's like my heart was breaking watching this. It was so, the emotion was so palpable. Just, and we get to episode 4, the funeral games. And since everybody's already had a chance to see this, it dropped on Friday. If you haven't seen the series yet and binged it, get thee to your Netflix whatever and watch it. But episode 4, while we are honoring the loss of one of the major players in Hellenic mythology, there's bickering, there's fighting. It's like everybody's family funeral. But so you bring so much authenticity. But here again, there is so much emotion as the familial battles and rivalries are playing out. It's like, no, we don't want Hero there. We don't want this one there. Oh, no, you can't say anything. No, Heron, you're not entitled to anything. You're an illegitimate brat. You bring it all in, but the emotion is so real and so palpable that anybody will be able to see something of their own family, especially in that episode, in episode 4, funeral games.
That's you hit the nail on the head, Debbie, because families are messy, and we always say, like, the Greek pantheon. Not only were they the world's first superheroes, but it was also kind of like the world's first soap opera. Like, this one cheats on this one, this person murders someone, this person comes back from the dead. It's all there. It's General Hospital, but, 2,500 years ago, and so just spot on. And what we always say, and we tell the animators this, like, we have to care or else the action won't matter. It'll be pretty to look at, it'll be fun, but if we don't care about the relationships and what's going on and why people are doing what they're doing, then, what are we doing? It doesn't really matter. You have to sell the drama for the rest of it to work.
Everything here everything is very purposeful in your story development and your character development. I saw it in season 1. It's even more so in season 2 as the stakes are higher. And we get to learn more about these individual gods and demigods, particularly poor Heron. And, I think we need to clarify for the audience, because I also think that Disney Plus having Percy Jackson, their series, pop up, also, there is no Heron. You guys made up Heron.
Yeah. Literally in Greek, the name Heron means hero.
Yes.
And so that's what the name means. And part of it is, Debbie, this is a business, and there are a lot of Greek mythological tales that we think you could just, tell them as they were told.
You sure can.
And they would be great.
But sometimes
when you pitch
embellish
people that, they don't get excited.
No.
So you have to create a new story. And so what we said is, what if this is one of the lost stories of Greek mythology? And this guy's a demigod, but really it's the Hercules story, to be honest. If you look at what we did with Heron and Seraphim, it's Hercules.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Now, when you guys, after you finish season 1 and you get the green light, season 2, how did you go about, what is your process? Because you're not looking at this just as writers. You're also the executive producers overseeing every aspect of this production. And because you're writers, as executive producers, you want to make sure that your work is showcased to its best possible advantage. And part of that work is the story and the characters. What was your process like for developing season 2, for coming up with these chapters, with these events, with the story progression? Because this is actually quite complex. The ins and outs of this. I don't know if anybody's watching on the Adrenaline Radio Facebook page right now. I have, once again, saved from the past my handy-dandy Greek god family tree in front of me. So I have 2. I have one that's in color and one that's a standard acceptable formatting for a family tree. I have to that's how I keep track. I used to do the same thing in Latin class in high school for the Roman gods. I had my little family tree chart. So for you guys, I have my Greek family tree chart here. But it's very complex, the complexity of the family dynamics, and then bringing in the different events. And because you guys are Greek, you know Greek mythology, you know Greek history, what was the process for coming up with the through line of the season 2 story?
Well, to be honest, Debbie, because animation takes so long, when we finished the scripts and then the animation team was working on season 1, we then moved on to another job. We were writing a pilot for MGM. And in between drafts of that, our mind would always, we started to see the first season, the animation come back, and we were getting excited. And we said, oh, this is really cool. This is turning out well. Maybe we'll be able to continue this story. And so in between other jobs, before the release of season 1, Vlas and I would just every once in a while just kind of, daydream, and any ideas we had, we would just write and put into an outline. And there were certain ideas that right away kind of sprung to us. We knew we wanted to tell the Hades and Persephone story. We didn't want to keep him on the sideline. We always thought he was a super interesting character. He's actually the inspiration, Bob Crane said, for Batman. And if you read the ancient texts and stories about him, we said, no, we have to do the Hades story, and let's put a spin on it with, the relationship between him and Persephone. And then we knew we wanted to open, from a different point of view and see the War of Olympus, which was the last episode of season 1, see it from a different point of view and use that as a way to kind of introduce Hades. And then there was one note that our executive at Netflix, Brandon Mattingly, gave us, is that he said, we pitched him, some of the ideas we were thinking about for season 2, but he said, this show always is built around Heron and Seraphim, and eventually their relationship, and eventually what will be the resolution of their relationship. So we just had this, we had heard David O. Russell say once that, when he's working on something, he just has a notebook or a Word document where any idea that comes to him for the project, he starts jotting it down, and you just start to accumulate this kind of war chest of ideas and storylines. And so we knew, we wanted to have Zeus's trial. We knew we wanted to see Seraphim in the underworld. We knew we wanted to see, Heron struggling with where he kind of fits in this world, and that there would be this power vacuum after Zeus was gone. And so then slowly you start to build up all these threads, and then you just start to mold it. That's all writing is. It's molding and shaping and problem solving. So by the time the show came out, we had a 25-page document, which was really kind of stupid to do. Because that could have been a total waste of time. No one could have watched the show, and we put a lot of work into it. But we had all this stuff ready to go. So then we were excited to jump in and start to dramatize all of this. And then, in our office, we have the charts, the family tree and interesting stories, and we just make photocopies and throw them up on the board, and that all just feeds the machine, is what we like to say. So, we always say you just have to absorb as much as you can, and then really just try and focus on what are the most dramatic elements here that we think are interesting, and then we hope the audience will be on board too. And the other thing too is that because they're only 22-page scripts, there are certain stories and gods we can focus on because we only have so much space. But when we have more seasons, then we get to expand the
Right.
other gods we see. And there's so many gods in the Greek pantheon. So that's what always was in the back of our mind. Each season we can tell a new story and show more gods as we continue forward with Heron and Seraphim.
Well,
and what I would add to that is that we always try to make it personal. And it's, you mentioned it evokes certain feelings it evokes certain feelings when you watched it, and that's something that, makes us smile when you say that, because we try to do that. We feel it's important for the story to evoke the audience in some emotional way. And it starts by hopefully moving us emotionally. And then, as Charley mentioned, once we do that, we hope by doing that, the audience will have that same reaction. And then some things just also kind of led us down a certain path, because, as Charley mentioned, there's, Zeus is no longer the king of the gods, so there's a power vacuum. So
Yep.
what happens? And there are questions that have to be answered, so that leads you down a certain path. The other thing that I would also mention is that we always knew that we wanted to bridge the divide between the brothers. We wanted to start them at a place where they were very adversarial and literally trying to kill each other. And then we wanted them to incrementally grow closer. And so that was something that we knew and something that we discussed quite a bit early on in the process. But again, it has to be earned. It has to be that bridging of the divide has to come about in an organic way. And then there are just also themes that we wanted to explore: betrayal, redemption, love, and how far you would go for the people that you love in your life. Mm-hmm. All of us would want to prevent our families from enduring hardship or from being hurt. And then the question becomes, how much would we sacrifice? How far will we go? And how far is too far? So when you kind of take all of those things and you kind of throw them into a pot and you stir them up, and once you also couple that with the strong wants of your characters, identifying what each character really wants, then the story and the characters lead you down a path. It almost writes itself after a certain point. And that's exciting because we're surprised to find where the story goes. And the beauty of that, most often when we're surprised, the audience is also surprised.
Well, something that you've done that I also love is you also introduced this idea of forgiveness. That is not something the gods have ever been known for. Be them Greek gods, Roman gods, Thanos in the Marvel world. No. Gods do not believe in forgiveness for the most part. But you introduce not only the idea of forgiveness, but these characters have a choice in a couple instances of a do-over. If you could change, I mean, this is a question I think probably 99% of the world has thought. If you could change one moment in your life, one thing that would impact the rest of your life, would you? And what would it be? And that is something that it makes you think right away when that question is posited, not to one person, but to two people at different times. So that's a really interesting theme to introduce. And, of course, the fact that we have a quote-unquote mother-in-law causing problems, that's another good element that you have here. I think every guy out there, every girl out there, everybody out there with a mother-in-law can relate to that, I think. But I like the themes that you've introduced here, and I like that you scatter. Not only is this Heron's hero's journey, but you scatter all of these themes amongst the characters. I would like to see a little more of Poseidon, though. I'm just saying. We could have used some more Poseidon.
Definitely.
But, you made me happy with Hades, so. But, you've got Hephaestus here. People, a lot of people don't know too much about Hephaestus, so you bring that in. You have Demeter. And, Heron's besties. You always got to have the besties. And then you start by episode 7, and we're in the Hidden Realm, which is the name of the episode. We get the automaton Talos. And this is a whole other thing. Kids would go crazy. I mean, it's like Transformers in Greece.
That's a little bit of a tip of the hat to Harryhausen and all those stop motion.
Yes.
He did Jason and the Argonauts, and they have a Talos that was seared into our souls as kids, like watching that on TV.
How could you not? How could you not have that seared into your soul? That's some of the. I'm still waiting for you guys to have the dancing skeletons. Okay.
The dancing skeletons.
Yeah.
So we talk about that because that's one of our favorite sequences. That's just pure movie magic, and that just inspires us even to this day. All these decades later, that echoes out and it echoes forward.
That was.
We're gonna have to put that in.
But Ray Harryhausen, I think for younger people, they might not even know who he is, but all this amazing stop motion animation that ended up in these fantasy films. He was the genius behind all of that. And I know that for Vlas and I, he's on our Mount Rushmore of Hollywood greats.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why some of these things find their way into the show.
As well they should, because you're paying, not only are you paying homage to the Greek gods in your own history, but you're paying homage to the film industry and the history of cinema with much of what you are bringing out in Blood of Zeus. And I find that really wonderful. The thought that you put in and these little touchstones and all. Dancing skeletons, please. Dancing skeletons, please. But, and you culminate. I want you to know, I got to episode 8. I watch it. That, I think, is the longest episode in season 2. And it's the great appearance of Gaia, which we've seen images of Gaia throughout this second season, but now we really get to see her in all of her fury come to life. And now we're getting fed even more history. We've gotten the story of Kronos and Zeus and Gaia, and then going back to chaos, and now we're at the point of the Titans, because you guys are all screw-ups. So, it ended, and I'm like, where is episode 9? Where is episode 10?
Well, God willing, we want to keep telling the story, and it just comes down to viewership. And season 3 would be an emotional, freight train, for lack of a better way. You will be on the edge of your seat. I just wanted to go back to the Poseidon of it all. That was really tough, and it's very astute that you noticed that. And it's something that we were like, oh, man, we wish we had more Poseidon. And, in fact, we had more Poseidon scenes. However, we had to cut those out for budgetary reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest challenge we have, and I believe we shared this with you when we spoke in season 1, is that the scripts are only 20, 22 pages long. Charley mentioned that earlier. And the challenge is you only have so much real estate. And for us, it's always mostly been a story about the brothers. And in this season, the story about Hades and Persephone. So when you take both of those stories, there's only so much you have left over. And sadly, Poseidon is a character we wanted more of, and his storyline kind of had to be cut, and for budgetary reasons and because of really a lack of real estate.
Yeah. I mean, I know you only have so much time, and all of these characters are just so fascinating. They're so intriguing. They're so wonderful. And you want to see more of them. But Poseidon, the animation of Poseidon is so stunning. And he has such a presence. You've got that one shot, and I forget which episode it's in. It's it's 7 or 8. And here he comes, and he fills the screen with the waves behind him, and he materializes.
Yeah, on the stingray.
And he is just dead center, larger than life, and you're just, oh my God. Why is he not king of the gods and not just king of the sea?
Well, it's so funny you say that, Debbie, because listen, the hope is and I'm not sure what will happen, but we had an awesome story for Medusa, and in that story, really Athena and Poseidon play front and center, and we get to see the story of how Medusa came to be, our version of it, where it's almost like Wicked, where she's the hero and she's given this power. Actually, she's not punished, but she's given this power to get revenge. And we would dive into Atlantis and we would see all of that. So sometimes, like in our head, we're like, okay, like we're not giving this God the justice we would like, but if we are lucky enough to continue, we'll really shine a light on them then. And then the other thing too, I just have to say, we're just so lucky because this is such, the Greek mythology is just an abundance of riches. Like Gaia is one of our favorite characters. Gene Gilpin, who voiced her, absolutely killed it. But also too, what we always do is we just look at the ancient text and say, well, what did she do? She had a very abusive husband. She helped her son overthrow him. But then her son becomes a tyrant, and he's such a terrible tyrant that she actually helps hide away one of her grandchildren, who she knows will then, usurp her son. And just think about, now obviously in the Middle Ages that happened all the time.
Yeah.
And those stories were true. But if that was a person, if we just take away and strip away all the supernatural, that's really interesting. And so after all that, she wants to try and guide them in the right direction. And then part of it too, what always ends up happening with writing, Debbie, this, is that everything going on in the world around you, sometimes it filters into the story.
Absolutely.
But when we say, okay, this is this character, this is what she's been through, and then writing this during the chaos of the past few years, it's like we need forgiveness in this world. Like I know, people are wronged, and you can be justified to be angry, but we need forgiveness. It's the only way to move forward. And so we felt like, oh, this character, she's seen chaos all through her life. She sees things kind of not going in a good way. She wants to teach them to forgive. But then she's also this tough grandmother.
Yeah.
And when things go sideways, she's like, all right, enough. Now it's time. You're all going to get your spanking. And that's what we see.
And boy, oh boy, it's a heck of a spanking that they're about to get. Geez, but it's just so phenomenal. Just so phenomenal. The way you tell this. And of course, the action sequences. Now, I'm curious. You're writing everything out. You're writing the script out. You're writing your dialogue out. Are you jotting notes about how you want battle sequences to look, or some of the more bucolic pastoral sequences of the film? Because these battle sequences, I got to tell you, they will rival live action MCU. They're that good in animation.
Debbie, it means the world for us to hear you say that, because we know what a student of cinema you are, and how you just watch everything, and we have so much respect for your opinion. That means the world to us. And yeah, all this stuff, we write it out. We write out every bit of it. It was interesting in season 1, because we had American board artists. There was a little bit more of a back and forth. They would read what we wrote, and then, they would pitch ideas back and forth. Here, it's just like what we wrote is exactly what they did. And sometimes we said, guys, like, if you have other ideas, feel free to, you can, go bigger with this, or if you have some other idea, the action doesn't have to be what we wrote. But yeah, this time it was almost like verbatim. What we wrote is what they did.
Wow.
And it's just interesting. Each time you do a project, it's always different, and you always learn something new. But dealing with Korean board artists, they were just like, nope, we will honor the script, which is a nice change, because in the feature world, that never happens. You get rewritten, and the director does what they want. But we always want an exchange of ideas. We're all for. We're not precious. We just like best idea wins. Like, this is the idea, this is the intention. But if someone has a better idea, we don't care if it's the production assistant, if it's the person that delivered coffee. Like, we'll take it. But action is a big part of the show, and it's what animation fans want, especially in these kind of more adult-oriented shows.
Yeah, and
it's interesting, if I may say, just that action was, obviously something that we were known for. But someone asked us, like, what are you most proud of, and what are you most excited to share with the audience. And I had mentioned, you know, it was something that I hadn't even written. Charley wrote that stuff on forgiveness, and I loved it. And that was what I was most excited to share with the world. Mm-hmm. And I remember when he initially pitched to me, and I'm like, I don't know, bro. I don't know if that'll work. And then he wrote it, and it was beautiful. It's probably one of the things that I'm most proud of, because I just believe in it, too. I sincerely believe in it. And if we don't forgive each other, then that path going forward can be one we can destroy each other. And so, but it's also, I believe that it was done in a way that wasn't preachy. It was done in an organic way.
Yeah, very much so.
I'm proud that it's resonated. And for me, I was most excited to see that come into fruition than any of the action sequences that we wrote. And when I love action sequences, and I love when they're done well, and I believe in, you know, good action sequences. And for us, what we always try to do, Debbie, if we can, is to have the action be an extension of character. Mm-hmm. You really do have to care about the character and understand what they want, why they want it, and then the action can pop. No matter how cool the action is, if you're not rooting for the characters, it'll fall flat. So it all starts from character.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, everything is very purposeful. Everything, what every character does, it's all very purposeful and with intention. It's not throwaway things. Now, do you have input into the colors that are used, like in the action sequences? Because that's where, there is no dialogue for the most part in the heavy action sequences, and they're flying through the air. We got chariots coming down from the sky, and we've got lightning bolts. So we've got blues, electric ice blues, and we've got golds and yellows. Do you have input into the color palette and the designation of color to each god or each action, or do you leave that to the animators?
It's interesting. There's a step after the boards. They do what are called color scripts, and that's where Mike Hughes, who's our producer at Powerhouse, and this season Jay Kim, who is our supervising director, they supervise the color scripts, and they send them to us. But to be honest, in that arena, we just kind of defer to them, because they really, like, we see what they send us, like, this is great. Like, if we have some idea, we may, chime in, but overwhelmingly the credit belongs to them there. And then that's the first of two steps there in the color scripts. And then again, in the final color correction with headquarters and Gosha, she was just incredible. She would then even make things pop a little more. She would be like, okay, I see you guys have this light source here. Let's put some gold across this. And it's amazing, Debbie, they can just it's like a paintbrush, how they do it now with computers. Vlas and I are not tech savvy, and the final processes of this is all done, digitally on computers. But we would sit in this dark room and just watch her, tweak the colors. And be like, this is amazing. The tools are really extraordinary now. What you can do. You
guys, and me included, we'd be sitting there, with little paintbrushes like in elementary school. I think I'll just swoop this here. No, the brush is too fat. Let's just cover it up with water and it'll wash away, and then we'll repaint it. That would be the three of us, I am sure.
Honestly, I feel like we come from a different age, the Stone Age. I'm just not, but it's great, and these are great tools, and you sometimes just have to let people that are super talented do their work.
Yeah. Now, once again, something I loved in season 1, as you know, your opening titles are just so beautiful for each episode. And here again, you up the ante this year with your opening titles and the animation. And, when we get the one and it's all black, and then Blood of Zeus, it's coming out and it's all in flowers. And, oh, my God, the opening title animation is just so gorgeous. And it always ties into the theme of that episode.
Exactly. That we just think it's a fun thing for the fans.
Yeah.
Everyone sees title cards now, and we miss, to be honest, Debbie, the 80s and 90s, that shows on broadcast TV or what they call linear TV, that opening credits, that was a shot in the arm, especially for the shows that you love. And you can't do it's almost verboten now to do opening credit sequences. They don't allow it, but we figure we can sell it if we justify that each episode there's a little hint and people will hear a little bit of music from Paul, and there'll be a little bit of animation that's unique to that episode, and that's how we were able to get in, because it just helps, just a little jolt of excitement. And again, we're all shaped by our experiences, and like every time we watch the A-Team or Quantum Leap, and they had that opening, you can't do a 60-second opening now. They will never allow that. But for us, it's fun, and it's just something that's, again, the things that stay with you from your childhood.
And it also brings a little mystery.
Yes.
Because you want to be like, oh, how is that going to play out?
Yes.
And in addition, so many people love the way the titles were treated in season 1. So we felt like, okay, we need to bring back that. So that was another thing.
I just think they're beautiful. I think the opening titles are beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
And they do. Now, I would be remiss not to ask you about the incredible, incredible music, once again, from Paul Edward Francis. Yeah. Oh, my God.
Paul's just super talented. Paul Francis Edwards, he's our composer, and he just did an incredible job. And he killed it in the first season, and we were very happy to see him get an Annie nomination, which is like the animation award.
Yep.
And he got nominated for his score and his composing work. And he just is so talented. And he's the nicest, sweetest guy, super unassuming. And he's like, well, I'm working on something. I'm not sure how it is, mate. I'll send it over. And it's like, Paul, this is incredible. What do you mean you're not sure? He's amazing. And he's just been a blessing to the show. And we always say he's part of the secret sauce of why the show, we're able to just be, just a little bit more than just a cartoon. It's because the epic music he brings kind of pushes us up.
It's very
and going back to that discussion that we had earlier, where we tried to, bring about that cinematic feel to the show, we shared that with Paul, and he certainly has done that. It feels like it should be a score for a movie, and just the layers that he gives you are just fascinating. Even if you look at the first episode, and and they're a huge part of delineating certain scenes, and also being a North Star when it comes to emotion. The music almost tells you how you should be feeling, and or at least contributes to to the emotional effect the show has on the audience. So I second everything Charley said, where he is most certainly part of the secret sauce. And there's so many critics, that and all the interviews that we did, who every single one of them mentioned the music, how much they love the score. And so we're very grateful for his work. We think he's super talented, and we hope to use him on every project we work on.
Yeah, the emotionality that he brings, and not just in the composition itself, but in the instrumentation, because that is such a key part of scoring, is the instrumentation. And what emotion do you want to evoke? Do you want strings? Do you want just simple piano? Do you want a full orchestra? Do you need a deep, bass clarinet or a French horn in a particular instance? The instrumentation just complements the composing so beautifully, and the recurrent motifs, because everybody's got their own motif. And he layers those motifs. When we have multiple characters, he has a beautiful way of layering them within the arrangement for a particular sequence, so that you can just listen. I personally would love to see a soundtrack released.
They did. They put out a soundtrack. It's on Spotify. So they did a season 2. Season 1 they did as well, and they also did a vinyl for season 1. Season 2
I want vinyl and a CD. I am old school. I do not use Spotify.
We'll get you a vinyl, Debbie. They never did a CD, and it's crazy because I still use CDs. I like physical media.
Yep.
And everything is everyone's gone crazy with everything being digital, but I still prefer digital media. I still buy DVDs. I know it probably and Blu-rays probably makes me seem like a crazy person, but I prefer to have it.
No, I don't buy anything. I don't get digital stuff. It's got to be physical. I want it in my hands. And especially since a lot of people are like, oh, I can watch it on Netflix, I can watch it here, I can watch it there. And then it's like continually stuff is getting removed from these streaming, from these digital platforms. Well, then it's tough luck. It's gone.
Yeah.
Now you can't watch it. So,
good point.
You know, that's why, you know, I want it. If I like it that much, that I really want to be able to watch it whenever I want to watch it at 4 o'clock in the morning or something, I can go into the closet or into one of the shelves with, I mean, I have over 1,000 VHS tapes still. And
that's awesome.
So I've got them, and then I have about 1,000, if not more, Blu-ray and CDs.
Wow.
DVDs, rather.
Cool.
So, and then CDs and vinyls, we're not even going to count. You know, you know, because I actually got in acetate. Actually, I ended up with, my dad had his collection of singles that had played on American Bandstand, and those are now mine, all mine.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's a piece of Americana. And, you know, we're very proud of our culture and our country. And, like, you know, no one, you know, for the longest time did it better than us. And, like, that's so great that you have that. What a collection, Debbie. That's awesome.
You know, it's tangible. It's, you know, I can touch it. I can take it out. And I also know on some even older things, 45s that have old stuff from the 1940s.
Wow.
I even and he's got notes written on the plain brown cover on the single that I'll have forever. And then, of course,
so cool.
You guys will appreciate this. And I'm going to announce it on the air for the first time. I have one of the original recordings of Abbott and Costello, Who's on First. It was my dad.
Oh, that is so cool. I love that.
We used to watch them with our
dad.
dad. Yeah,
that's
so great. That's amazing.
And that's who introduced me to them as well, was my dad.
Oh.
But yeah, no, I didn't even know he had it until my brother was finally getting stuff out of my dad's house, and he was shipping stuff to me. And it was a collection. It was, you know, an old leather record case for the large, what now would be like an extended play. Back in the 40s, it's just a single spindle through the middle. You know, you don't have a 45 adapter, and it plays at 78. So it's a funky size, but that's what the acetate cases, that's what they were designed for, size-wise. And I'm looking through there, and there's some original Bing Crosby stuff, and then I get to, like, the third thing, and in the top of it, in the lid, he had meticulously handwritten under each slot, because there are paper slots to separate, actually cardboard, to separate each record you put in there. And it's like slot number 1, slot number 2. I get to slot number 3, and in his handwriting up there, it's Who's on First. And I'm like, what? And I go and I look, and there it is, and it's numbered, and yeah.
Wow.
So I like physical media.
Absolutely. We totally agree. And it's just, there's no substitute. And even it becomes a little bit of a ritual. You go, you know, to the shelf, you pull off a DVD, you know, you put it in the DVD player, and you get excited. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the same when you just click a button, you know, on your remote.
No,
it's
you're
just
right.
a different world, and that's just amazing.
Now, why can't Netflix needs to also now take, that gives me another idea of what on my want list for Blood of Zeus. I want these put onto a DVD or Blu-ray.
I love that.
That's always been a dream, and people ask us about that on Twitter all the time, because Castlevania, which is another very popular animated show, is available on DVD. But that show was partially owned by a third-party production company, Frederator.
Okay.
And they, when they negotiated their deal, kept the exclusive rights to put out a DVD. So they put out the DVD, not actually Netflix. Our show is wholly owned by Netflix. And they're still of the mind that if you want our content, you have to pay for the service, and so they don't put it out on DVD. But that's something we would, just love to have, just to add it to our shelf, and to our collection.
And plus, people that love the show that much, for convenience, they're still going to watch it on Netflix. But to have a DVD or a Blu-ray of it, and maybe with a director's commentary added on to it, people, they will embrace both. So here, you're getting your monthly fee from everybody to watch the show, but then you're also getting the money from selling the product.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win. People really need to rethink these things.
This might sound silly too, Debbie, but I also think it's good for the filmmaking ecosystem. We learned so much watching DVDs and the DVD commentary, in the 90s, and that doesn't exist now. I know now there's podcasts and other forms of ways to learn, but we watched so many DVDs and listening to Fincher and listening to Spielberg talk through their movies. That was as much of our, training as anything. And, I know they can find it in other places now, but it was really great. The whole DVD and commentary system. I miss that. And I think it hurts the creative community, at least the younger people coming up.
No, I completely agree with you. That's one of the greatest things that I loved are the DVDs with the extra of the director's commentary, so that right there, and listening on a podcast or something is not the same as having it right in front of you on your TV or on whatever device you're using to watch it. So that you can even stop it and you can go back and forth. And you can't do that. You can't
and they're talking you through the shot and you're seeing it and you understand. And it's just like, oh, wow, that's amazing.
If you ever want a great director's commentary, and it's very limited, but Baz Luhrmann's Moulin Rouge, there is one sequence in there, and it's phenomenal. I think Baz shot it, one of the big production numbers, with 12 cameras or something. And to have him talk, and on the DVD, you can actually mark and reposition your POV watching it based on the camera angle.
Wow, that's incredible. I love that movie. I don't have that on DVD. We always loved the Carlito's Way DVD and the commentary. Mm-hmm. And then there's also this great featurette where David Koepp, the writer, and Brian De Palma talk about the scene where Pacino comes in to talk to Sean Penn in the hospital and the process how they constantly kept rewriting it. And then there's one point where Pacino's like, no, he shouldn't even come up. And we learned so much. And what basically kept, boiled it down to is that there were all these things that he had written, but it came down to one guy saying, you don't ever betray your friends, and the other guy saying you have to save your own ass. And that's what that very short, terse version, he goes, worked beautifully. Yeah. And even how De Palma explains the pool sequence. We love that movie, so I'm probably talking too much about it.
No, but you're not.
His commentary on that pool sequence where Pacino realizes they're being set up and they're about to be ambushed, it's amazing. Everybody should watch. If you have any interest in storytelling, writing, filmmaking, you got to watch De Palma talk about, that sequence.
Yeah. I mean, these are the things that you don't get unless a DVD or Blu-ray is made with specific commentary added. To go back, to hunt down a podcast somewhere and to listen and then have to, oh, my God, I don't have the film. I got to now find the film. Physical media. And just remember, when all those satellites, as my dad always said, one day those satellites are going to fall. You guys have heard this from me before. When those satellites fall from the sky, there it goes.
We have batteries, and I still have one of these that my daughter takes on trips. It's a DVD player that's just like you just carry it with it. And you pop up the screen, and you can just throw in the DVD, and it's the best thing ever. We've had the power go out, and I'll get to bed and watch a movie, and it's awesome.
I've got a portable one. I used to have one of the portable little battery-operated TVs. Of course, they don't work anymore now. But, no, it's, and flashlights everywhere and batteries everywhere, and I still record everything manually on an Olympus digital and an H4n. I do not use Zoom. I still have a copper wire landline phone. So it's old school because, as he always said, when those satellites fall from the sky, you're going to be the only person that will be able to function.
Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be the satellites. It can be one of these solar storms. Like they were saying, these
this
skies
weekend.
have been beautiful, but yeah.
Yes, no, this weekend. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see any aurora borealis in Southern California. However,
yeah, we didn't get anything.
Had we all been in New Jersey, we would have seen it. You know?
We miss the Jersey Shore. We know you do too.
Oh, God.
You know, it's a great place.
I'm still trying to find a house there.
That
Still trying to find one there in Barnegat Pines, in Forked River.
Wow.
The prices have just gone up astronomically. It's like the kind of houses, the small bungalow ones that I like my grandmother's house, things that were built in the 1950s and into the 60s. Those nobody's given up. Some were for sale a few years ago, still semi-reasonably priced, but I put offers in, but I got outbid. And now the homes there in that same area, they're going for $600,000 and $700,000.
It's crazy. You know, Debbie, our mom is still out there, and all our friends from high school. And during COVID, so many people left New York and Philly, and they moved to more, remote locations, and they just drove prices up like crazy there. And it's just insane because that was just a great part of the country and a great place to live, and it's gotten so expensive. It's crazy.
I'm still looking. I'm still holding out hope, though. I want to be there so I have my lakes to pick from and just drive another 20 minutes. I'm at Beach Haven or at Seaside Heights, so... we have our priorities, guys. We
hope one summer to catch up with you there and grab a slice of pizza on the boardwalk.
Oh, absolutely.
And talk about old movies.
But with no seagulls. We have to pick a seagull-free zone, since that is an issue on the boardwalks there, with seagulls stealing food. So now, one last thought here on Blood of Zeus, my friends. When will you find out? Any idea when you'll find out if we get a season 3? And if so, are you already working on Titan stories?
Well, we'll know pretty soon in 10 days how we performed. And, the scripts are written for season 3. And so there won't be this long turnaround. It'll be within a year. And then just the question is, depending on how the show does, whether we'll go past that, whether this will be the end, whether we'll get to do our Medusa story or not. So that's why I think, part of it, we've been a little slow out of the gate. We were just like a missile the first season. Everyone tuned in. But I think people are having to rediscover the show maybe in some ways after, a 3.5-year hiatus. So, we'll know pretty soon. I think, we just have to hope for the best. And, we say our fate now is in the hands of the movie gods, and we just, we'll see what happens.
And that's why we need everyone, and, to watch season 2. The more viewers, it all comes down to how many people are watching it. And it's so important for people to watch it the first 10 days, the first month, because that's when Netflix decides. So we're just asking everyone, please, 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 please watch it and have their friends watch it and their parents watch it and their grandparents watch it and whoever else they can get to watch it, because it's very, very important that we get the viewership. And as Charley mentioned, this year, it's this season, it's been tougher to get viewership, and we feel that part of the reason is that there was that 3.5 year, gap.
Well, I can't recommend it highly enough. I absolutely love it. And yes, not only did I watch my press preview access of all 8 episodes, I have since watched it on regular Netflix, so my viewership counted.
Oh, thank you.
So,
you're the best, Debbie.
You're the best.
I support.
You must be from Jersey.
Jersey and Philly, that's it. You know, you got
Yeah, Philly.
as Rocky Balboa would say, home team. That's it. Guys.
Debbie, there's many times where I put on ABC and I think of you, and I think of Channel 6 ABC back in South Jersey. That's what we got.
Yep.
I know you were in Philly, but that's what
the entire Delaware Valley. The entire Delaware Valley. Yeah, my grandmother would always sit at home and like on parade days, and she always had Channel 6 on, and she would always watch like after a Thanksgiving Day parade or something, and she would always look to see my dad's name on the credits as chief engineer, supervisor or something. But you can't take Philly and Jersey out of the girl, let me tell you.
And thank God for that, Debbie. Thank God for that.
Guys, this has been a thrill, a delight. I am so happy that we got to blather everybody's ears off today. Lots of information, lots of fun stuff as usual with us. Pam is sitting in the booth and going, "Wow, we've done almost 2 whole shows today."
We can talk. Those of us from back east, that's not a problem. We can definitely chat it up.
And about everything imaginable.
Yeah.
Everything imaginable. Guys, you are coming back on the show again. You must. And
be our pleasure.
Our pleasure always.
Not umpteen months later. But in the meantime, my toes, fingers, and I'll even cross my eyeballs that we get our season 3. Because this is such a good series. And, people, you watch this one, if they want a great double binge Blood of Zeus, then go to Disney Plus and binge Percy Jackson, live action.
It really is a nice renaissance. We've been watching Percy Jackson, our family, and it's just been so much fun. And then for people that play video games, there's a game called Hades 2 that is out now that's super popular. It's a nice little moment our culture is having between this live action show, animated show, and video games. It's really nice to see.
There's something for everyone. So, and if you're me, you just want to see all of it. So, all right, guys, you go have a wonderful rest of your day. And we will chat soon. And yes, we're going to do lunch soon. I promise.
That sounds great. We'd love that, Debbie.
Awesome.
All right, guys.
Sounds good.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that was the incomparable executive producers and co-writers of Blood of Zeus, Charley and Vlas Parlapanides. Wonderful filmmakers, wonderful storytellers. Watch it. Blood of Zeus is on Netflix now, season 2. Watch season 1 to get caught up, but definitely season 2 surpasses season 1. I can't recommend it highly enough. And if you haven't checked out Masters of the Air yet on Apple TV, that's another good one for you. All right. We'll be back next week, right here. Got a full house next week. We're actually booking in July. I'm booking in July now. Pam's nodding her head. Oh my God. No. So, until next week, I'm Debbie Elias. This is Behind the Lens.